Okay, first of all, we decided not to cover the first part of the first question because we said, I mean, we're not really participating in some of those instances where we can obtain this kind of information where the ILO is not really involved. So we left that out. And what we concentrated on was the second part of the first question, compare some initiatives with others. But then we started brainstorming more generally about what is South-South cooperation, what are good practices that we can really consider. I mean, how can our tripartite constituents be really involved in really checking and putting a stamp on those good practices. So we were really brainstorming more generally. We were saying that what works in one country may not necessarily work in another. Some countries, and I'm not going to mention names, but some countries can have an underlying agenda, and the ILO should not be there only probably to work within that agenda, but also to influence that, to see, for example, how can we ask some countries that do not want to talk about standards, or do not want to introduce a more normative framework, and probably sometimes the involvement of some of our constituents within that work. We need to really influence all those processes and you know, bring ILO's agenda really there to really make to ensure that we really work on this. Then we started talking about regional integration processes, the fact that lately in some regions that used to be very good best practices, for example, on social dialogue, on establishing policies on social labor issues, like Mercosur and CARICOM. These instances have been weakened lately. So in fact, have been weakened, and in fact, we need to see how the ILO, I mean, can help them to probably recover some of those agendas and do more work on this. Well, we were talking about EU funding for South-South also cooperation and exchange of good practices. We said it is not really called South-South, but in fact it is South-South because the EU is or is triangular. The EU is funding, but it is exchange of good practices between a single region or between the interregional on some issues. I think, do you want to add something? No, that's it.
Okay, thank you.